Okay, we were discussing about the consumer behavior by applying the ordinal utility measurement. Okay, so by the cardinal utility measurement, you know how the consumer attains the equilibrium under the cardinal utility measurement. How the consumer attains equilibrium? Attains equilibrium as per the law of equi-marginal utility, where the marginal utility of money expenditure will be equal to the marginal utility of money. That point will be the consumer's equilibrium, the point. That is mu x by px equal to mu y by py equal to mu m. So in that we are able to calculate how much the consumer is receiving the marginal utility from each unit of the consumption of x as well as of y. But here under the ordinal utility we don't have that facility, or we cannot measure the utility. Rather we can arrange, or we can order the utility, or we can rank the utility. So in order to achieve the consumer's equilibrium here also, we need the income or the budget, and another one is consumer's preferences. We have already derived how the budget constraint is being derived, and how the change in the income and how the change in the prices of commodities affect the budget constraint. Already all these things we have discussed, and also we have discussed about the slope of the budget constraint. Then we discuss the indifference the curve and its the properties. So indifference the curve, how to define anybody? How to define an indifference the curve? Indifference curve consists of various combinations of two commodities, commodity X and commodity Y, which gives the consumer same level of satisfaction. So the consumer can make different combinations out of these two commodities. Suppose here in this indifference curve, we have two combinations. Suppose combination A and combination B. When the consumer is consuming combination A, he is consuming more amount of fish and less amount of mangoes. When he is at combination B, he is consuming more amount of mangoes and less amount of fish. But he is getting equal happiness out of these two combinations, or he is indifferent to choose any of the combination. If he is getting equally happy, if he is equally happy, or if he is getting equal happiness either to by combination A or combination B, that means he is indifferent. Okay. Then by plotting all these combinations, we can get a downward sloping convex curve, which is called as indifference curve. Okay. Then we discuss the four properties of indifference curve. First property is indifference curves are downward sloping. Why the indifference curves are downward sloping? Because along the indifference curve, any point you take, at every point, total utility it will be constant, or total satisfaction will be constant. And in order to keep the total satisfaction constant, if you have to increase any units in the x-axis, you should match with the y-axis so that the total utility will be same. Okay, so if the consumer will consume more of commodity X, he should reduce the consumption of commodity Y so that his level of satisfaction between two combinations it should be same. And this can happen only if the indifference curve will be downward sloping or if the slope will be negative. Okay. Then the second property we discussed that a higher the indifference curve, higher will be the level of satisfaction and vice versa. Third property of indifference curve is two indifference curve cannot intersect each other. And the fourth property which already we discussed that is the indifference curves are convex to the origin or bowed inward. This is the important property which we are saying the slope of the indifference curve is equivalent to the marginal rate of substitution, and the slope of indifference curve is not constant, it is declining when you are moving down on the indifference curve, or when the slope is not constant, we can say indifference curve are non-linear. This is not a linear. Okay. When the slope will be constant, then we can say it will be linear. When the slope is not constant, we can say it is a non-linear or convex curve. So why there is a diminishing in the slope? Why the slope of the indifference curve diminishes? So anybody can answer why the slope of the indifference curve declines. Anybody can answer. Anybody is trying to answer, at least try to answer why the slope of the indifference curve declines when you are moving downward on the indifference curve. This is due to diminishing marginal utility. Okay, the slope of the indifference curve declines due to diminishing marginal utility principle. That principle which we read in the cardinal utility approach, that principle is also applicable here. So how to understand this diminishing in the slope of the indifference the curve? According to the law of diminishing marginal utility, higher will be the stock of something, the additional marginal utility it will be going down, or means the lower will be the marginal utility, higher will be the stock of something. Lower will be the stock of something, higher will be the marginal utility, higher will be the stock of something, lower will be the marginal utility. So when you have a stock of more things, suppose you have more mangoes at the combination A. So in order to have additional mango, your marginal utility will just increase by less amount. But when you have stock of less fees, in order to have more additional more fees, your marginal utility it will added means more than the addition in the mango. Okay, here I would like to give one example as this understanding is important. So uh, Okay, anybody want to participate? Nikhil, 760. Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Nikhil, how will you understand by marginal rate of substitution, or how to understand the law of diminishing marginal utility? I will just to give you one example, then it will be easy. Suppose, assuming you don't have any mobile phone, but you have two laptops. दो लैपटॉप आपके पास है पर मोबाइल फोन जो नहीं है, assuming if your other will ask you that I will give you one mobile phone, but for this you have to give one of your laptop to your brother. So when you will have one mobile phone, when you don't have any mobile phone and you are having one, then your happiness will increase because आपके पास मोबाइल फोन ही मीन्स नहीं था.
Yes,
जब
sir.
एक मोबाइल फोन मीन्स मिलेगा तो हैप्पीनेस बहुत इंक्रीज करेगा. बट आप जब एक लैपटॉप आपको ब्रदर को देना पड़ेगा, तो आपके पास आपका मीन्स दो लैपटॉप था, एक लैपटॉप अभी दे देंगे तो तुम्हारा तो कुछ हैप्पीनेस में रिडक्शन होगा ना. अरे मेरा
Yes,
दो
sir.
लैपटॉप था, एक एक दे दिए तो हैप्पीनेस कुछ रिड्यूस हो गया. पर एक मोबाइल फोन आपको जो मिलने से जितना हैप्पीनेस ऐड हुआ, एक लैपटॉप को सैक्रिफाइस करने से क्या उतना ही हैप्पीनेस आपका रिड्यूस होगा या जो कम होगा?
तो
क्योंकि आपके
सेम तो
पास
नहीं होगा.
सेम नहीं होगा. जो कहां पर ज्यादा हैप्पीनेस मिलेगा?
अगर दोनों लैपटॉप रहते और फोन भी आ जाता.
हाँ मन नहीं नहीं, पर आपका हैप्पीनेस मन वो तो अगर मीन्स लैपटॉप होगा फिर मीन मोबाइल आएगा, हैप्पीनेस तो ज्यादा होगा. पर इंक्रीज इन योर हैप्पीनेस ड्यू टू एडिशन ऑफ वन मोबाइल फोन will be more, or reduction in the happiness due to sacrifice of one जो लैपटॉप will be more.
The reduction से happiness का.
Reduction of happiness will be more.
Yes, sir.
Addition.
एडिशन विल बी मोर, क्योंकि अगर आपके पास कोई कमोडिटी का स्टॉक नहीं होता है, उसका अगर एक मिल जाता है तो यू विल बी मोर हैप्पी. अगर किसी का बहुत सारा स्टॉक होता है, सपोज आपके पास मीन्स 10 लैपटॉप है, आजुमिंग मीन्स मीन्स दो लैपटॉप है इसलिए समझ नहीं पा रहे हो. सपोज मीन्स बहुत सारा मीन्स जो लैपटॉप है, 8-10 लैपटॉप, अगर एक
सर
लैपटॉप
अगर
किसी को
हाई
दे
एंड
दे.
लैपटॉप था और सस्ता सा फोन पकड़ा दिया तो.
सॉरी
सर अगर मेरे पास अच्छा लैपटॉप था बट फोन मतलब बेकार सा पकड़ा है तो ऑब्वियसली है कि मैं थोड़ा सैड होऊंगा.
हाँ, तो अगर सो इसमें जो एग्जाम्पल हम जो ले रहे हैं, एक्चुअली इट इज इक्विवेलेंट टू दैट. दैट मीन्स व्हेन यू आर एडिंग समथिंग टू द जो स्टॉक, यू हैव टू सैक्रिफाइस द अदर वन. हियर एट पॉइंट ए, अज्यूमिंग आपके पास बहुत सारा कमोडिटी वाई था और आपके पास लेस कमोडिटी एक्स था, तो इसीलिए एक एडिशनल कमोडिटी एक्स को ऐड करने के लिए आपका हैप्पीनेस मीन्स ज्यादा इंक्रीज होगा, या एक यूनिट का मीन्स वाई को रिड्यूस करने के लिए आपका हैप्पीनेस ज्यादा रिड्यूस हो जाएगा? जिसका स्टॉक जो कम होगा, अगर उसमें और एक एडिशन होगा तो हैप्पीनेस ज्यादा इंक्रीज करेगा आज कंपेयर टू
यस सर.
जिसका स्टॉक बहुत सारा होगा, एक उसमें दे दिए. ठीक है, इतना सारा लैपटॉप था, एक दे दिए मीन्स ब्रदर को, नो प्रॉब्लम. मेरे पास मोबाइल ही नहीं था, एक मोबाइल मिला तो ज्यादा खुशी मिलेगा, है कि नहीं?
यस सर.
यस. नाउ यू सी, दिस इज द कॉल्ड एज मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ substitution. That means you are substituting one commodity X for 6 unit of commodity Y, so that your level of happiness will be equal between A and C. क्योंकि आपके पास जब commodity X का जो stock at combination A was very less, but commodity Y का स्टॉक एट कॉम्बिनेशन ए वाज सो हाई, सो इसीलिए कॉमोडिटी एक्स का एक एडिशन होने से आपका जितना यूटिलिटी इंक्रीज होता है या टोटल हैप्पीनेस में जितना इंक्रीज होता है, आप ओनली एक यूनिट ऑफ कमोडिटी वाई को रिड्यूस करने से उतना ही हैप्पीनेस रिड्यूस नहीं होगा. You should reduce more units from the commodity Y so that the increase in the happiness because of commodity X will be equivalent to reduction in the happiness in the commodity Y. Understood now?
Yes.
ठीक है. तो इसको बोलते हैं मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्स्टिट्यूशन और द रेट एट व्हिच द कंज्यूमर इज विलिंग टू trade one good for another so that his level of satisfaction between two combinations will be same. Now if we'll come to here at point B, ठीक है, पॉइंट बी में अगर हम आएंगे, इसमें क्या है कि आपका स्टॉक ऑफ एक्स इंक्रीज. ओके, हियर इफ विल कम. Now stock of X has increased, but stock of Y has reduced. Suppose आपके पास अभी एक दो तीन मोबाइल फोन हो गया, एक पापा ने मीन से जो गिफ्ट किए, एक अंकल ने गिफ्ट किए, एक कोई हमारा एल्डर सिस्टर ने गिफ्ट किए. सपोज आजमी आपके पास तीन चार मोबाइल फोन हो गया, पर आपको एवरी मोबाइल फोन के लिए आपको एक एक लैपटॉप आपको सैक्रिफाइस करना पड़ता था. अगर कोई आपको एक मोबाइल फोन देगा, आपको बोलेगा कि एक लैपटॉप एक्सचेंज करो और किसी को एक लैपटॉप दो, फिर तुम्हें एक मोबाइल फोन मिलेगा. जब आपके पास दो तीन मोबाइल फोन हो जाता है, पर लैपटॉप का स्टॉक जब 8-10 लैपटॉप था, अभी आपके पास दो लैपटॉप हो गया, तो अभी एक एडिशनल मोबाइल फोन जो के लिए आप क्या एक लैपटॉप को सैक्रिफाइस करना चाहेंगे?
नो सर.
आपको लगेगा अरे भाई मेरे पास तो 4-5 मोबाइल फोन हो गया, तो एक मोबाइल फोन होने से ज्यादा मेरा हैप्पीनेस इंक्रीज नहीं होगा, पर एक लैपटॉप अभी रिड्यूस कर देंगे, आई विल बी वेरी सैड बिकॉज मेरे पास दो ही लैपटॉप है, मोबाइल फोन इतना सारा हो गया. सो हियर द कंज्यूमर in order to add one more unit of X, now he will not reduce the same amount of uh, commodity Y. Initially at combination A, he was having huge amount of commodity Y. So he was ready to sacrifice 6 unit of commodity Y for just 1 unit of commodity X so that his happiness will be equal. But when he is having less stock of commodity Y now, so in order to add one more X, he will not be interested to sacrifice the same amount of commodity Y like 6. Now he will be thinking to sacrifice less units of commodity Y so that his level of happiness will be equal. So this is called diminishing marginal rate of substitution. That means the rate of substitution will decline when the consumer is moving down along the indifference curve. And this is called as the slope of the indifference curve because delta y by delta x. If it will be your delta y, then it will be delta x. Oh, sorry. Just a second. This is not the case. Delta y will be here. Delta y. This will be delta x. ठीक है. So which is called as the slope of indifference curve or marginal rate of substitution, the rate at which the consumer exchange one good for the other so that his level of satisfaction remains same, and this is called as the slope of the indifference curve. And we can understand that slope of the indifference curve will be diminishing along the indifference curve when you are going from upward to downward. ठीक है, or we are saying the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. I hope you understood this one.
Yes, sir.
If
Yes,
anybody
sir.
will ask, if anybody will ask, what is the slope of indifference curve? Then the answer will be slope of the indifference curve. It will be negative. Whether the
Yes, sir.
whether the indifference curve it will be convex to origin or not, you will say convex to origin.
Yes, sir.
Convex. Yes, sir. Convex.
Why it is convex to origin? Because of a diminishing marginal rate of substitution or because of diminishing slope of the indifference curve. Because slope of the indifference curve is not constant. As the consumer is moving downward, he will sacrifice less and less unit of commodity Y for each addition of the commodity X. That means marginal rate of substitution it will be diminishing or the slope of the indifference curve it will be diminishing. Okay, I hope you understood this. Now all these things are explained here. Slope of the indifference curve is called MRS or marginal rate of substitution. Then there are two extreme cases where the slope of the indifference curve will not be diminishing. So the one case is perfect substitute goods. If two commodities are perfectly substitute, anybody can answer what is called substitute goods. Substitute goods. Substitute goods means when you can use one good for the other. These are called substitute goods. Two mobile phones of different brands, either iPhone or MI phone, but two are substitute. You can use MI phone, you can use iPhone. Suppose because the same work, but both are not perfectly substitute. You will always prefer to you may always prefer to iPhone than the MI phone, or you may prefer to MI phone than the iPhone because both are not perfectly substitute to each other. If two will be perfectly substitute, that means both are identical for the consumer. There is no difference between commodity X and commodity Y. So in this case, the indifference curve it will be which is straight line. That means the slope will not change or the marginal rate of substitution at every point it will be constant. Suppose we would to take the tea and the coffee. Assuming both are perfectly substitute. आपको एक कप जो चाय देंगे तो जो चलेगा, एक कप जो कॉफी देंगे वो भी चलेगा. सपोज यू आर गेटिंग इक्वल हैप्पीनेस आइदर टू हैव वन कप ऑफ टी or to have one cup of the coffee. Exactly equal happiness. You have no difference between tea and coffee. Then we can say tea and coffee are perfectly substitute. So if you are having some unit of tea, suppose 10 cup of coffee and 10 cup of tea in a week you are having. Now if somebody will ask, can you increase the number of tea by 2 cups? Suppose 12 cup of tea and 8 cup of the coffee if you will you have any reduction in the happiness? You will say no, because for me both are perfectly substitute to each other. I can have tea, I can have coffee. If I will add 2 cups of coffee, I can just exactly reduce 2 cup of tea, because 2 cup of the coffee, how much satisfaction I can get by reducing 2 cup of tea, I can exactly reduce my happiness by this much. That means decline in the happiness will be exactly matched by increase in the happiness due to having more coffee. So in this case, there will be constant substitution. Every time the consumer will substitute exact amount of commodity X for the commodity Y. So there will be no change in the substitution, or marginal rate of substitution will be constant, or the slope of the indifference curve will be constant when two goods will be considered perfect substitute to each other. In this case, indifference curve will be straight line downward sloping or linear curve. But in case of the normal goods, the indifference curve, it will be convex to origin or non-linear. Similarly, another extreme is perfectly complementary goods. Complement goods. If two goods will be called as complements, when demand for one good automatically lead to demand for the other good. अगर आप एक suppose any example, can anybody जो tell me complementary goods का example? Laptop and laptop bag, both are
Charger.
the complementary good. Because if you will purchase one laptop, you have to purchase one laptop bag. Automatically, there will be generation of demand for the complementary good. जो लैपटॉप खरीदेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली डिमांड फॉर द लैपटॉप बैग विल इंक्रीज. कार एंड जो पेट्रोल वी आर सेइंग, जो कार खरीदेंगे तो पेट्रोल का डिमांड मीन्स ऑटोमेटिकली बढ़ जाएगा बिकॉज वी नीड the petrol if it is a petrol used to car. So if two commodity will be perfectly complementary in this case, if only the number of one good will increase, other good remaining same, the consumer's utility will not be changing. Suppose here we have given one example of the left shoe and the right shoe. Suppose you are having 5 pair of the shoes, ठीक है. अगर ओनली जो राइट शू का मीन्स जो नंबर इंक्रीज हुआ 5 to 7, but number of left shoe remaining same, whether your happiness will be changing, will you be means more happy? लेफ्ट शू का जितना नंबर था राइट शू का उतना ही नंबर था. सो यू आर हैविंग ए पर्टिकुलर your level of happiness, but only when your number of right shoe will increase, number of left shoe remaining same, here whether your happiness will increase.
No, sir.
No, because only जो राइट शू लेके क्या करेंगे आपको, अगर राइट शू ही पहन के जाएंगे, कोई बोलेगा ये कहाँ से मंदिर से ले गया है कि नहीं. तो योर हैप्पीनेस विल नॉट
Yes, sir.
चेंज. हाँ हाँ हाँ.
Yes, sir. सही में.
हाँ ऐसा ही होगा. तो इसीलिए अगर लेफ्ट शू का या जो राइट शू का नंबर इंक्रीज हो रहा है, लेफ्ट शू का नंबर भी उतना ही प्रोपोर्शन से इंक्रीज होना चाहिए, देन द कंज्यूमर विल बी हैप्पी. अगर जो फ्लिपकार्ट में आप मैंने ऑर्डर किए शू, एक ही शू आया है एक ही साइड का, तो क्या करेंगे? रिटर्न का अगर
Blame
ऑप्शन
करेंगे सर.
नहीं है, रिटर्न का ऑप्शन नहीं है, पूरा मन से गुस्सा हो जाएंगे, है कि नहीं. तो
Yes, sir.
ओनली हाँ. सो हियर बाय इंक्रीजिंग द नंबर ऑफ one commodity, that is one the complement, if the other commodity is not increasing, then the level of satisfaction will be same. Similarly, if the number of left shoe will only increase, but the number of right shoe remaining same, the consumer's happiness will also not be changing. So at all these 3 points, the consumer's utility will be same, or the level of satisfaction will be same. That means these 3 points can be upon the same indifference curve, because we know in upon the indifference curve all the combination gives the consumer same level of satisfaction. If these three combinations are giving the consumer same satisfaction, that means these 3 points will be upon the same indifference curve. That means how the indifference curve will be looking like? The indifference curve will be looking like right angles in case of perfectly complementary goods. And only when the number of X commodity will increase as well as the number of Y commodity will increase with the same uh, proportion, then only the consumer's happiness will increase, which will be explained by a higher indifference curve. Otherwise, all the points will be upon the same indifference curve. Okay? So, because two commodities are perfectly complementary, only when the number of both commodity will increase, then only the consumer's happiness will increase and the consumer can attain a higher indifference score. I hope you understood.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll come to another example, which is about the when two goods are not perfectly substitute or not perfectly complementary, or they are the close substitute or close complements. If two commodities will be the close substitute but not perfectly substitute, then the indifference curve will not be the straight line, it will be convex. Okay, because both are close substitute, it will be less than a straight line, it will be slightly convex. If two commodities are means not perfectly complement but close complement, then the indifference curve will not be right angle, but it will be like very convex or very broad, we are saying. Okay. Then we'll come to the important thing which is called as consumer's equilibrium. How the consumers then attain equilibrium given the budget constraint and given the preferences explained by the indifference curve. So here this is a indifference the map. Indifference the map means where there will be more than one indifference curve. Here there are three indifference curves, and we know a higher indifference curve represents a higher level of satisfaction. And also we have a budget line or budget constraint which is drawn over the income and the prices of commodity X and Y. Here the consumer's income is having $1,200, price of commodity X is $4, price of commodity Y is $1. Now given the budget line and given the indifference curves, which combination will be the consumer's equilibrium combination where the consumer will achieve a higher possible happiness given his budget. Now we'll see. Suppose point B or combination B, it is upon a higher indifference curve or highest indifference curve here. That means if the consumer will be at point B, he can achieve a higher possible satisfaction because this is upon a higher indifference curve. But whether the point B will be considered at equilibrium point given the budget line. Yes or no? Point B, whether
Yes,
it is
sir.
a point B will be the equilibrium, although whether point B is affordable.
No,
This
sir.
is this is not affordable because it is above the budget. So
Yes, sir.
although this combination is explaining a higher level of happiness, but this is not affordable because this is higher than the budget. Similarly, point C and D combination C, if the consumer will purchase, it is affordable because this is within the budget. But whether it will be giving him the maximum satisfaction, point C, No, because this is upon a lower indifference curve. Similarly, point D, although this is upon the budget line, this is also affordable, but this is also upon a lower indifference curve. But if we will take point A, which is the tangency point between budget line and the indifference the curve, this is the common point which is upon a highest possible indifference curve and also affordable because this is upon the budget line also. So this can be considered the consumer's equilibrium combination because this is upon a higher indifference curve also. It is affordable also because it is also upon the budget line. So the consumer's equilibrium is identified at a point where the budget line is tangent to the indifference the curve and where when a straight line is tangent to a convex curve at a point. So here you can say the slope of the indifference curve is equal to the slope of the budget line. Okay, is it? So here the slope of the indifference curve equal to the slope of the budget line. We know the slope of the indifference curve is marginal rate of substitution. Slope of the budget line is equal to price of fish, price of commodity X by price of commodity Y. So at the tangency point at point A, where the budget line is tangent to the indifference curve, or the tangent of the indifference, the curve is it is itself with the budget line. So the slope of the indifference curve is equal to the slope of the budget line, or this is called as the consumer's equilibrium. I hope you understood.
Yes, sir.
Then what will happen to the effect of income change? If income will increase, then only the consumer can attain a higher indifference score or can attain a higher happiness. So in the initial the graph, we show that the consumer cannot achieve the point B or combination B because it was at a higher budget. Now, if the consumer's budget will increase or his income will increase, then only he can achieve a higher uh, equilibrium point which is upon a higher indifference the core. Okay, then there is a small there will be two slides more I will explain and then we'll bind up the difference between normal goods and inferior goods. Two goods will be called as or a particular good is called as normal good when there will be positive income effect. With increase in your income, if the demand for the commodity increases, then it is called as the normal good. But if there will be negative income effect for a particular commodity, then it will be called as inferior good. Suppose if your income is less, you are purchasing more fish. फीस करी ज्यादा होता है मीन से जो घर में क्योंकि हमारा इनकम इतना नहीं है कि हम सुपीरियर गुड लाइक मटन को अफोर्ड कर पाएंगे. But when we'll be rich person, our income will be very high. Then we may go for more mutton and we may reduce the number of fish, so that we can say fish is the inferior good because with increase in our income, demand for the fish it is declining. Therefore, there is negative income effect and it is therefore fish is called inferior. In this example, we have taken the example of fish and mangoes, where we are assuming mango is a inferior good than the fish. Now, if your income will increase, as we know, there will be negative impact, income effect upon the inferior goods. As mango is the inferior good, when the consumer's income will increase, there will be outward shift of the budget line and there will be increase in the consumption of fish, because fish here is the normal good or the superior good, and mango here is the inferior good. Therefore, with increase in the income, demand for inferior good will decline. This is the last slide. What is the effect of price change? If the price of one commodity it will decline, then how the effect will be upon the consumption bundle. Now suppose price of fish was $4, price of mango was $1. Now if price of fish will reduce to $2, what will happen? Now the consumer obviously will purchase more amount of the fish, because fish becomes cheaper, is not it?
Yes, sir.
So by reduction in the price of fish, demand for fish will increase. What will happen to the demand for the mango then? Suppose price of mango is same.
Been same.
Okay, demand for mango. It is our general idea is that when price of mango is not reducing, only price of fish is reducing. Demand for fish will increase, but demand for mango will be same. But actually, in the real cases, this does not happen, because as compared to earlier combination, that is when price of fish was $4, price of mango was $1. Now if price of fish will reduce, means not only fish will be cheaper for us, mango will be relatively expensive than fish now. Okay, because mango will be relatively expensive, so when price of fish will reduce, not only demand for fish will increase, but also demand for the mango will reduce. So how it is happening? This is the last slide. Now I don't want to means to continue this, because there is some noise is coming from the other office. Okay, in the means
Okay.
the next class I will explain you means why, even if the price of a mango is the same, if there will be reduction in the price of fish, so no doubt demand for fish is increasing. Why there is a reduction in the price of demand for the mango when price of mango is the same? So there will be two effect will be means working. One is income effect and one is substitution effect. How it is happening, I will explain in the next class. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you then. So I, just wait. I am just sending you the attendance link. Then we can bind up.